Moments of imposter syndrome be damned. A writer knows that they're a writer. It's unavoidable. And it's tempting to say preordained. In that way, we are destined to this life of storytelling. Some writers read up on story structure A to Z, while others jump in there and start kicking ass. Every writer's process and destiny is uniquely their own. Yet, it's my enduring belief that every movie adheres to the exact same 29-point story structure, no matter which type of writer pens the tale. The fifth element is my exhibit G. A tight focus on the core elements of the protagonist's personality, inner conflict, and situation. We receive the framework around Lilu's 5,000-year cycle, defining her destiny. But the space turtles no longer trust that she's safe on Earth, so they 86 their Egyptian cubbyhole. They give unto the lineage of priests the mission to keep alive the knowledge of their return. And that lineage survives to guide Lilu's prophecy into fruition. We spent 16 minutes exploring the setup, and now we meet our ex-spacefighter turned cabbie protagonist. He's not doing well right now. Where, why, and how the protagonist exists in their world, with a focus on why they don't quite fit in. Corbin outclasses junkie cooks for breakfast, almost literally in this case, and flexes his affinity for combat. Lilu's 5,000-year-old petrified hand is salvaged from a shipwreck, and is used to clone her to life, though she doesn't know how to communicate in modern tongues like English, nor does she know how to navigate this distant future. A singular event that's never happened before, and is destined to lead the protagonist away from their status quo. Lilu, the confused yet perfect weapon, meets the hero in waiting, who also happens to be waiting for the perfect woman. An examination of what's different in light of the something new, what's the same in spite of it in relation to the status quo. The 5,000-year-old weapon begins to break the language barrier with a modern hero, and they bond earnestly. So much so that when she pronounces her plea for help, the decorated ex-spacefighter can't refuse her. The discovery that things are less than ideal, or an exploration of how badly things are. The police give chase much longer than Corbin expects them to. Then they open fire, another unexpected development in Corbin's escape. Obviously, Lilu is much more than a roof-crashing party girl. Heavily armed blockades force the cab-dwelling escapees down into hiding, where an overwhelmed Lilu gets out one final message before passing out, leading Corbin to an overwhelmed and passed out Vito. The protagonist dedicates their effort to a specified goal, which is smaller in scope than the primary objective that dominates the third act. Asked to gently wake Lilu up, Corbin kisses her unconscious face, and discovers the consequences of quote-unquote gentle sexual assault. Act the gamut literally translates to never without my permission, and he's lucky to still be alive. At gunpoint, Corbin's heart flutters. A brief checklist of the story elements needed for the second act. Corbin's schoolboy crush on the cute redhead he just met and lost his license for. Lilu's superhuman adaptability. The mystery of the missing 4 stones. Jean-Baptiste Emmanuel Zorg, and the power he wields. The singular event that launches the protagonist into the wild jungle of the second act, also called an oh shit moment. Zorg realizes he miscalculated, and Lilu is ready to join the hunt too. Oh shit. The protagonist must learn all new rules and expectations distinct to this adventure. Vito and David fret about how to reach the stones. Zorg must navigate around this unexpected deception, and chooses to reveal his true identity to Vito. Through Vito, Lilu learns that Zorg and his power are right behind them in the hunt. The protagonist showcases their ability to grow in the areas this adventure requires, typically through external means. Zorg gets his intel. General Monroe is ordered to deploy a one-man strike force to retrieve the stones. Corbin is fired. That may not seem like a positive progress, but now he has all this extra time to be an action hero. characters face legitimate and understandable reasons to deviate from their stated convictions, agendas, or desires. Corbin finds out that he's won a trip, and he susses the news right away. The deception makes him less than thrilled to come out of retirement. Oddly for Corbin, holding him at gunpoint doesn't seduce him back into service either. An escalation of problems that vex the protagonist. Police swarm the building, chasing a hot tip. Corbin scrambles yet again to keep Lilu out of the authorities' hands. A name tag switcheroo by Vito redirects the cops to a neighbor. They nab the wrong Corbin Dallas, which greenlights 2 more fake Corbin Dallases into the rush to get to Floston. Then a blow from behind, and Vito is the newest fake Corbin Dallas. The protagonist evolves internally by utilizing everything they've gathered and learned. Knowing Lilu is running straight into the path of a classified military operation, he accepts the mission to keep her safe. He intercepts the boarding just in time to fend off the army of fake hymns converging on that spot. Presumably, he took a cab. Vito heads to Floston himself, sending his protege to Egypt in preparation for Lilu. Journey-weary characters reconcile the reality of their ongoing situation with who they were in the first act. Corbin is done with people's bullshit. There's a mission at hand. A singular event that strikes at the protagonist's core conflict. Lilu speaks English to Corbin and makes sure he understands that she'll protect him. Their fates are officially intertwined. Characters find a safe harbor that also provides needed answers for both external and internal conflicts. The real Corbin Dallas, Lilu and Vito, set off for Floston, with the army of imposters eluded. The clarified objective is realized in part or in whole, though it's meaningless without the completion of the primary objective. We find out that Zorg isn't the villain, but merely the agent of the villain. Great. And although Lilu is in paradise, she's moving dangerously close to those who will kill to meet their goals. Vito made it too, but he was awake and aware the whole time he was stuck in that vent. An existential conflict that wounds the protagonist's sense of self, worldly identity, or their journey. Corbin's mother tracks him down to give him an earful. The courier of the stones makes contact, but tells Lilu to wait for the handoff. Corbin wishes for death rather than Ruby Rod's company. And it turns out agents of death are in the very next room. Then the sound of gunfire caused Lilu to awaken her inner weapon. An undeniable win for the protagonist, typically in direct connection to the rebirth. Lilu proves what a supreme being can do. A grand loss directly connected to the protagonist's newfound inability to quit the journey. Zorg catches up with the stones, forcing Lilu to abandon them to save her own life. Then the synth-singing courier is shot down during the Mandalorian takeover. A thematic freefall tied directly to the heavy price. Outmatched and scared, Lilu calls out for Corbin. Zorg falls for yet another deception and melts down. Ruby Rod armed is chaos enough, and his accidental kill echoes throughout the acoustic-friendly opera house, drawing attention. Corbin fights his way out, only to dodge missile strikes. A singular event that robs the protagonist of seemingly any chance of success. Corbin is captured. The protagonist cannot return to their starting persona, and must turn to face the primary objective. Corbin arms himself and takes on the whole Mangalore squad, then rescues Ruby Rod and the Stones in style, and puts down the whole damn Mandalorian invasion. The protagonist moves toward the climax while utilizing the major swings and sneaky misdirections of the story. For the third time, Lilu ends up in Corbin's arms. The cast of characters converge to face yet another existential threat. The final confrontation between the protagonist and the antagonistic force. Stones and Lilu in possession, our heroes race from Floston before it blows up. The singular event where the protagonist finally confronts their place in the status quo. Corbin pilots the spaceship safely away from the space explosion. The direct aftermath of the climax, the cinematic denouement, if you will. The priest finally holds his life's work in his hands. Then Earth gets the news that the ball of evil is headed at top speed straight at them. But Lilu is horrified to see the war atrocities of the very people she hopes to save. The consequences of the climax in relation to other characters in the status quo. Our heroes scramble to set up everything for Lilu's fated weaponizing, only to find her demoralized by mankind's ugly side. But Corbin's love activates the fifth element, and the ball of evil is stopped in its tracks. A tight focus on the protagonist contrasted from the opening. Corbin and Lilu, together and in love. And there you have it, my seventh example to support my argument that all movies follow the exact same story structure, regardless of how the writer approaches their craft. The fifth element lingers in numerous sequences to navigate the moors of sci-fi tropes, yet every beat of the 29-point story structure is present. But is this stylized romp through the future a fraternal twin to an international masterpiece and Academy Award winner for Best Picture? Yes, it is. It absolutely is. Please subscribe to stay up to date with this and future videos, and please like and comment with your thoughts and reactions. I'll talk to you next time.